Welcome to this week's Thoughts On podcast with Chris and James, talking about the Brian Mackenzie podcast.
Yeah, Breath is Life.
Breath is Life, that came out at the beginning of this week. Brian's someone that we featured in issue 2 of the magazine. We went to hang out with him in Sisters or Bend in Oregon.
Yeah, near Bend in Oregon.
Somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Oregon. Right at the beginning of the process of putting together issue 2. And Brian was someone that was on our radar for quite a while from the work that he'd been doing in the world of CrossFit, and then increasingly on our radar with regards to the work that he was doing with Breath. He runs he owns a system called Art of Breath, which is part of the Power, Speed, Endurance system of Breath. And after having spent time with Wim previously for issue 1, Brian had brought Wim out to America with Laird Hamilton, and they were doing some work with him, and then Brian kind of just went off and started to fall down many different rabbit holes in the world of breath on his own, and that's kind of how we turned up to hang out with him, really, for the feature in the second issue. And then we stayed in touch and attended the Art of Breath seminar with his partner in that, Rob Wilson, who we did a podcast with.
Yeah, early days.
Yeah.
Third podcast.
Yeah, for me, cutting to the chase, because I feel like I'm just describing the whole process of how we know Brian. For me, if you want to know about breath and you know nothing about breath, Brian is the person to follow.
Yeah, he's an all-round,
of all the different people that we've spoken to about breath,
non-dogmatic approach to breath.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. He's just non-dogmatic, and I think he's so intrigued and interested in it, and he's applying his own life principles, which we wrote about in issue 2, of creativity and sharing and learning. That's what he brings to the table with breath. And so he just keeps bringing up all this information that he then willingly shares, and doesn't try to own breath.
Yeah, particularly in the performance arena, and he's said that's his focus.
That's his specialization for sure. I mean, he's working with his wife Erin is 2-time Olympic gold medalist, and
James Newbury and a bunch of other elite CrossFitters.
He had numerous CrossFitters at the last games, didn't he? So he's obviously applying those principles to in the world of performance.
I really like his straight talking approach, and he's also a person that's experienced a lot personally, which comes across or I feel at the stage he's at, he doesn't feel like he's got anything to prove, and he's really going in and exploring what breathing can do to bring it to people in that performance arena. And he doesn't really want to be anyone's guru or...
Yeah, man, I mean, I agree. I really admire Brian. I think I really admire him because he lives by these life principles.
I was going to say, he just speaks. He will say what he thinks.
Yeah.
And that can come across. And that it feels like a number of the people that we've met, they have their own strong opinions, and they believe in what they have learnt and experienced. And they will say that.
Yeah.
And that can probably get some people's backs up.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly refreshing, because it's like, cool, that's what Brian thinks.
It's that thing, I guess these are the people that we want to go and spend time with, or we're attracted to spend time with. People that have been through the ringer a bit. I think I don't know what he's been through, but he certainly is not shy, or he doesn't shy away from saying that he's had his experiences. But consequently, because of his experiences, he's coming out the other side, if maybe that's the wrong term, but because of the experiences, he's got something to apply his knowledge to, and that's what turns it into the wisdom, instead of it just being this surface level. I've been to a workshop for a weekend, and I know this information. It's like, that dude's kind of been through it, and he's applying the information to those experiences and with his athletes, and then sharing all that knowledge.
Yeah, there's
and he's really free flowing at sharing the knowledge. If you go to his Instagram every day, I'm like, Jesus Christ, how much more can you know about breath?
he's unrelenting in his
Yes, in his
quest
pursuit.
in pursuit for kind of getting to the bottom.
Yeah.
And he talks about methods of many, principles few.
Mm.
And he's, it's like, there are all these techniques, but they come down to this, and this.
I guess that's why, we talked a bunch about process. And I guess that is the core of it. All this work that he's doing with breath is the experiences and what have you is all the process, isn't it? And he's so devoted to that path, which I think ultimately you can only be devoted to the path of process, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, he's devoted to it, but devotion feels like it carries with it almost an
committed to it, be a better phrase.
It just feels like he's just living in the way that he wants to live. He's very, certainly to us, very respectful. I would say he would call a spade if he was a Yorkshireman.
Yeah.
And he doesn't suffer fools gladly.
Yeah.
He's just like...
Yes.
It's like he's Brian Mackenzie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we've met him...
Isn't it funny that some people, like, not in reference to Brian, but in reference to the type of character that Brian is, some people find that type of person really challenging? Isn't that just bizarre? Like, so this person's truthful.
He's unrelenting, and I think that's the hard bit. Like, it's like, let's go again until we do it. Let's go again, and often people don't want to do that.
Yeah, and
that does set people like Brian apart from others. Brian, Erwan.
Yes.
Logan.
Yeah.
Even weMove, all the people that we've been attracted to speak to, there seems to be an unrelenting desire to further their growth potential, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're on it, and it's like, cool, if you don't want to come, no problem, but don't hold me back. And they're just going for it. Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it, actually.
And maybe the master of all of that, who hopefully we'll get to speak to, is Mark Twight. They're just on, and they've, I think you said it about Jess the other week, they've caught their white whale and they've come back, and there's no nonsense then. There's nothing to prove.
You have to go out. You don't even have to catch the white whale. You just got to go on a search for it and then find peace with it, whether you find it or not, in order to come back to then get on with the real work. Like, the white whale's a distraction, isn't it? And hopefully you don't get distracted for too long in your life, so that you can spend more time committed to the real work of actually just being yourself, I suppose. That's ultimately what it is,
Yeah, Brian's very inquisitive, which... I mean, you have to be, but maybe a lot of people aren't that inquisitive, because do you know what? Brian's, he's unscared about turning over that stone that could completely debunk his whole previous 30, however old he is, years of experience and what he's learned.
Yeah.
If that's the it's just like, I'm gonna
and that's
go there.
And that's the process.
Yeah.
Being unscared to turn over that stone, because you know that that's the next stage of the process. I've got to stop saying process.
Yeah.
That's the next stage of the process to get to where you need to go.
Yeah. And that's really hard.
Yeah.
To go, okay, everything that you've just learned, and we wrote about that in issue 2, this idea of to evolve, you have to unlearn the limiting beliefs or whatever that you've had that you've carried through. That's really, it's just like, fuck, I've got to everything that I've said and stood for, I now have to do a 180 and go the other way.
Yeah.
But as we said, and we were talking about the vegan episode when we were talking to Brian, it's like that's where the growth is.
Yeah.
And then
oh boy, that's painful.
You become a little bit more compassionate. You know,
well, not painful. It's a necessary experience.
It's just uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like,
oh boy, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Just being.
You got to just embrace it. That's you know, for whatever reason, that's your path.
And see it for what it is.
Yeah.
And I think he's great at that. And I think it's always good for us, for where we are, at the age we're at, to meet people like that. Because you're like, yeah, there's a bunch more to learn.
Yeah.
And it feels actually really exciting. Yeah. To be able to live life, and incredibly uncomfortable for other people. Yeah. That one is living with. When you know there's a constant quest for, it's like there's more, and it might be a guy thing that it's like, no, we just have to do this. We have to.
No, I don't think so. I think it's just a personality, but you know, I think I'm going to say, for things to really work, if one of you's like that, then you both need to be like that. One can't be like it and one can't not be like it, because then it just doesn't work. But actually having both of you like it, you know, as long as you're both understood that is what's going on at all points of the day, then it would feel relentless, but it could be respected. Yeah. It can be. And not resented. Incredibly exciting. Although you have to go into every situation going, wow, what I'm about to learn now could completely change the foundation that I stand on. We may not be together at the end of this. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I might. But that's being unscared, and that's also accepting that, maybe that's just the next step. That's all good. Because if you can't, then you're just in fear, aren't you? Which is not going to serve. Fear stops a lot of people doing a lot of things. Yeah. Because that means change and discomfort. Yeah, but it is where the real growth happens. And say for Brian, all the experiments that they're doing with the breath and finding out, it's like it's propelling the science, the art of breath and the science of breath forward. And it is an art and a science. Yeah. In both, in probably equal measure, it is pushing it forward. But you can only push it forward if you're prepared to. Yeah. Make a few mistakes, find out, have disconfirming information, being able to hold two opposing thoughts in your head and not get hung up on labels. Yeah, totally. So, it's always great to. What I like about Brian is his experience. Like he ran, was it the Western States he did? Or he did Angel's Crest for sure. The Angel's Crest 100 miler. Yeah. There was another one. It might have been. But like they were way back, kind of before it was. Yeah. He was, in really interesting times when there was growth happening and people were figuring it out. They weren't almost coming like now from all the other running disciplines into this sport. They were going almost, let's see if we can run 100 miles. Yeah. And he was in early stage of CrossFit. And again, kind of questing things out, going, okay, he had an Ashtanga practice and he ran 100 milers and then he was lifting and I think water polo was his early sport. And it's like all of these things that are constantly challenging him, and you've just got to adapt the whole time. Yeah. And bring up stuff that you've got to deal with.
the whole time. You
Yeah,
know,
it's crazy, man.
deep dark holes in Ashtanga, deep dark holes in 100-mile races,
Deep dark holes in breath.
deep dark holes in breath, and then someone's
Yeah.
whacking you in the nuts in water polo, and you're like, dude.
I didn't realise he did water polo.
Yeah, I think that was his early. I
Right.
heard him on his new podcast with
Oh,
Kelly.
okay.
He
Right.
was talking about
I need to
water
check that out.
polo.
He's also got the wickedest gym.
His garage.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like a,
Camo on the walls,
every
a rack, couple of bikes, rowing machines, weird,
That's good.
weird heavy objects
Yeah.
of all shapes and sizes and densities
Yeah.
and circumferences.
But it's, yeah. It reminded me of going to Irwine's. It was a similar kind of vibe. Very peaceful.
Very peaceful, but serious work gets done here,
Yeah.
which I think is probably why serious work gets done there.
Yeah. 'Cause
It's the environment that allows it.
yeah. And I think that's also with everything that's extraneous has just been taken away. It's like it's
Yeah.
unnecessary.
He talked about that, didn't he? He talked about, he's had those episodes in his life where he had, the motorbikes and
Two cars.
and lived on his own and all these types of things, and slowly putting all those
And you just don't need it.
things away.
Yeah, you go back to actually what's essential.
Yeah,
And also that, I think that takes a certain level of bravery to operate with only what's essential, but that's all you need.
yeah,
Then there's a great comfort in one's own ability when you can just live like that. It's like, cool, this is
yeah,
what we need. And they're a tough duo, he and Erin. Double gold Olympic medalist, and then Brian doing all his crazy stuff.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah, I mean,
I'd like to talk to Erin. I'd like to do a podcast with her.
yeah, well, there you go. Perfect excuse to get back. I mean, Brian's the perfect excuse to get back,
Yeah.
but that's another great excuse to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Cool. So you can follow Brian on Instagram @_Brian Mackenzie. His Power Speed Endurance is @Power Speed Endurance. The website's powerspeedendurance.com. If you want to know about breath, for me, all the different breathing teachers that we've met, for me, Brian's the one to go to.
For performance.
For performance, but also for the opposite, the rest and digest stuff. Because I think he just comes at it from a perspective of sharing the information without having an agenda to it, and sharing it in such a way that it's very logical. Explain the intricacies. So yeah, for me, it's like if you just want to know, that's a great starting place, and then you can go off and specialize in whichever ones. But actually, I think you can just specialize with the work that he does anyway. But he's just coming at it from a really well-rounded perspective, whereas others are coming at it from just this one approach, and the opposite to that is just this one approach. Whereas Brian's work covers, the art of breath covers both approaches. So yeah, check that out if you're interested more in breath.
Thank you.
Thanks.